Okay, as you can see, I'm still working on the roof, but cutting planks on it is getting a little tedious. So I decided to work on another project that I'm going to be doing. And that is that when looking through my box of miscellaneous stuff that I've collected over the years, I actually had some of these NJI railroad crossing signals and figured that these would be good ones to put by the Y and the grade crossing that I have there, and have the old circuits on it, because this was one of the older runs, and it did still flash. Unfortunately, they're old incandescent bulbs, and the Arduino just wasn't powerful enough to do that and to run them. The reason I wanted to do the Arduino is I want it to be triggered with sensing in some way. I did decide to go with infrared sensing, and the other thing that I want to do is eventually put a bell to link with it too. I am going to put an on-off switch on there because I know that will get annoying over time. So what I have here is a mock-up of the circuit and signal. It really is basic. I didn't think it was necessary to have the coding be for when the train comes to the first sensor and passes the second one. I knew it was going to get messy with having 3 leads that it was going to be potentially triggering. So I just did a basic one. It goes through, sees if the sensor's tripped. If it is, it flashes the lights for a set amount of time. I've added in a little bit extra with it and have it being on a delay as well, or I'm using delay in there, so it does span a little bit longer if the sensor gets cleared. I'm not too worried about that because sometimes they trip for longer periods, just depending on the train. So this is what I've got so far. I was just testing these LEDs just to make sure that they were working. As you can see, it goes for a little bit. I have it for, I think it goes for about 8 seconds after, if it's tripped once, it'll go for 8 seconds, or until, the sensor's turned off. And here's one that I've already done up. You can barely see the LEDs in there, but it's a lot brighter and actually makes it worthwhile to have the signal on there. So I am going to get these LEDs here fed through this tower, and then we'll be back in just a bit. Okay, the camera was setting off the IR sensors, so I'm having to free cam this for a little bit, but here is sensor 1. Here's sensor 2. And then sensor 3. So that is all I'm going to be doing with that. I will pick up in a bit once I get to working on getting these put into the spot on the layout that I'm going to have them, and get everything soldered together and wired up. Okay, quick update on the crossing signal project. I was able to get the holes drilled in here in the track, and even here okay. But as I was coming up from the bottom to make the hole bigger, I accidentally gripped it, or it gripped just right in the wood and sent it up through the track. And as you can see, it's destroyed. Luckily, however, I have some other pieces that, even though it may look a little goofy having a straight piece there, they match up pretty well. At least it looks like it. I haven't pushed it down yet because I need to get a insulated joiner there. but I'm going to hurry and do that, see how it works. I was able to save some of the scenery that was here. I don't know if I will keep it or if I'll just re-put some Sculptamold in and then re-put the dirt over it. Luckily, I have just a little bit left of that. So we're going to hurry and do that and be back in a bit. Okay, I was able to get this fixed relatively quickly. Luckily, I had a curved piece that would fit. Unfortunately, the two straight pieces I had, one was too short, as you can see, just by a little bit, and then the other was too long, just by a little bit as well. And so I just ended up using a piece of Atlas track that I had, cut it off to make it fit, and used just some cork, and then I'll fill in the gaps there with some ballast. So luckily everything is running well. I've done a couple of tests, and I'll run a locomotive over it just to show. It's one of my bigger locomotives that I have. Unfortunately, because it isn't an exact match of what the track was that was in there, the pieces I have, they don't quite fit exactly anymore. So I'll probably end up just redoing everything with the Sculptamold here along where the crossing's at. And then I'll just use a dowel and stick it in this hole that I did for where the crossing signal will be at. So luckily it was a quick fix, but sure kind of slowed down the progress that I'd been making. So we will run the T1 over it real quick and then be back when I am getting the signals put in. All right, as you can see, the repair work has come along nicely. The Sculptamold is dry. I was able to also get the groove cut out for the wheel flange. And as you can see, the cars roll freely through it. I am going to probably just do a couple of light coats of paint over it. That way I can get the dirt replaced on it a little more quickly than what I did with the rest of the Y when I first was doing it. Once I get this painted, I'm going to start work on the ballast work while the paint's drying. I'll go along the inner portion of the Y here, and I'll probably do both sides of the cork area here if I get my arm out of the way. More so just to hide the cork than anything, as that is kind of a detraction from what's already there. The other thing that I'm going to do is get the ballast done along this side on the inner part of the Y as well. Hopefully by that point the paint will be dry. I can get the dirt on there as well, get it drying, and hopefully have this back to where it was come tonight, and I'll be able to start getting the sensors put in for the crossing signals and then the crossing signals themselves. So I will get working on that and be back and show. I'll probably do a couple of pictures as I'm progressing, since I've already shown how I do my ballast in that, and did show how I did the Y as well. So we'll get working on that and be back in a bit. Okay, as you can see, I've got everything fixed and looking how I want it to look. Things do roll through it still real well. And so I'm happy with that. The next thing is the signals themselves and the sensors. I do have the holes drilled for the sensors, as that was what caused the whole problem to begin with. And I do have the holes for the crossing signals. So I'm going to hurry and, well, not hurry, but I'm going to start with getting the sensors in, making sure that they're placed just right so that they'll work, but they're somewhat hidden still, and then get them secured. I'm just going to use hot glue. That way it's somewhat permanent, but I can also remove it somewhat easily if I have to in the future. So that is the plans. We'll get the signals in and the sensors, and then we'll be back once that's all in and showing them working. Okay, I've got the sensors in and the Arduino and sound module hooked up, and let's just do a test. So I have it set to that, but if you leave it on, it just keeps going. The other thing I did was put in a kill switch for the signal going to the sound module. So that'll allow the signals to flash, but not to have the bell going as well. So with that, that's that for this project. And we'll get back to more on the mine here in a little bit.